Welcome to Hype Wage in Sports. This is the first episode. Today we're going to be covering the Broncos, Bradley Chubb, and all about that team. Let's get into it. Okay, so first topic of interest. Obviously, I am the biggest Broncos fan out there.
And I'm very unbiased, so this should be a good discussion.
So, by the way, this is Chris, if you don't know Chris.
Sports analysis.
No. But, we both do know a lot about sports, and we have a lot of knowledge regarding the NFL football, the Broncos. Like I said, I'm one of the biggest Broncos fans out there, so I have a lot of knowledge when it comes to that. I was actually at this game where Bradley Chubb got hurt, and I did see him on the ground, and he was holding his knee while the trainers came on to kind of tend to him, and he looked like he was trying to stretch it out himself.
For tearing his ACL, he did perform pretty well.
No, he performed really well, and if you go back and you look at the stats, he actually forced a fumble while his ACL was torn.
No, I do have a question for you.
On that last drive.
Do you think his ACL was torn in the first place when he first started limping around and wrapping his knee? Or do you think he just strained it and then with further play, he tore it?
So, I do have some info on that. His knee was torn about a little bit over 14 minutes until the end of the game.
That's very
And he was taking on a block from the tight end on a run by Armstead. And he did something to his knee there. And he went off, felt like he had enough in him to come back into the game. He played the entire last drive, forced a fumble, like I said. He had a pretty good drive. He had a really good game overall. 1 forced fumble, 7 tackles, and 1 sack. So he did play a really good game, and it looked promising.
One of the good games out of the last 3.
This is true. And, going into just the Broncos are trending up, I'd say. Even though we are 0-4, I did see this thing where a couple of years ago, the Chargers did pick up Anthony Lynn, who's their current head coach, and he, in his first year, started 0-4, and then they ended the season at 9-7. So anything can happen, Broncos fans.
Well, the thing is it too late for the Broncos to be picking up their pace now at this part of the season? Because even if they win out now, I mean, that's still probably very unlikely with competitors such as the Chiefs with 2 games.
You can say that, but for me personally, I'm going to say no. Let me tell you why. The Raiders, right now, have a wild card spot at 2-2.
They also beat you.
They have a wild card spot. That is true. That's true, but they've also lost to some all-right teams.
They've also won against some all-right teams.
Yeah. So the point is, it's you never know what could happen. You never know what could happen. Tampa Bay beat the LA Rams this week.
They've had better play calling, and obviously the Broncos' play calling hasn't been cutting it. They do have the talent when it comes to receivers in the upcoming years. So if they could turn that around, they do have a true fighting force when it comes to those members of the team. But when it comes to quarterback, they're very slacking. Drew Lock's hurt. I don't even know who the third string is. And Joe Flacco he's just not enough. He's there, but he's not enough.
Okay, so let me ask you something. What do you think the Broncos' problem is? Because before this game, they were 9th overall defense in the league. And they had no turnovers and no sacks. And they were still 9th overall.
I feel like it comes down to not only play calling, but I feel like they've just been put themselves into bad situations. They've been putting themselves in situations where they've gotten bad calls, maybe from some refs, and they've gotten some good calls too, such as the first touchdown in the Jacksonville versus Denver game. But the thing is, it just comes down to putting yourself in the bad situation, in the situation you probably can't win, or the 50-50 ball. You have to give yourself matchups that will guarantee you, or almost guarantee you, a good outcome, and you cannot be putting yourself into those type of situations that will get you in that type of trouble.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. And what's frustrating when it comes to being a Broncos fan is when you look at the stats, we don't have bad stats like 9th overall defense. Joe Flacco's doing pretty well if you look at the stats. When he played Jacksonville, he had like over 300 yards and 3 touchdown passes.
Well, that's where the thing is coming. He may have good execution, and they may have good execution, but like if you cannot finish off a drive or if you can't hold a lead, then you're not going to win the game. It comes down to finishing it. It comes down to consistency. You can't be good for some plays and then completely shit for the rest.
That is true. I agree with that. It's hard. It's hard being a Broncos fan right now. We're living in a world of suck.
I mean, there is a possible hope for the Broncos. Maybe they switch it up, change up the playbook, and introduce a new type of style playbook that hasn't been seen, and maybe like surprise like the Baltimore Ravens did with Lamar Jackson. They haven't seen really that type of talent thrive now. It's a commonplace in the NFL to have quarterbacks that can gun it like 4 or 5 speed or faster and book it down the field and get around those people. And like Gardner Minshew can break out of tackles really easy, get out of situations. Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, they're adding up. Where Joe Flacco, he's kind of just like he can't get himself out of those situations and make those deep shot balls. I think that's also another thing the Broncos are missing out on. They're not taking a lot of deep chances. If you take a look at the Broncos, you see them running a lot of screen plays and handing the ball off to Freeman and Lindsey. They need to get it downfield, and that comes with. And then if you get it downfield, you have fewer plays and less problems with consistency. Where if you're running like 15 plays a drive, you're bound to have one play that goes wrong and turns it into a turnover.
I 100% agree with that. We are methodically marching it down the field. There's no doubt about that. But we're not taking any big shots. We're not getting the game exciting. We're just not adding any excitement to the game. And when it comes down to it, I mean, Jacksonville in this last game, they had double the possession time that the Broncos did on offense. And that's partly due to the play of the defense, but that's also very much part of the offense because it was 3-and-out the entire second half. And, I mean, of course, the defense gave up 180 rushing yards. Let's not even talk about that. That makes one.
That also comes to another thing, though, is that the Denver Broncos, they're very inconsistent, especially when it comes to, like, running. Like, some games they'll do good and they'll hold somebody to, like, 70 yards, and then some other games, I've seen plenty of Broncos games where running backs breaking over 200 yards rushing. I've seen, like, 3, like, personally, like, live on television or watch the entire game and just see them, like, crushing the Broncos when it comes to the run game. Now, is that something wrong with the players and them not being able to execute those types of stops, or is it something with the play call with the Denver's types of defense that they're having?
You know, I want to say it's partially both because I think that we have that D-line to make those plays. Derek Wolfe, Shelby Harris, Von Miller, Bradley Chubb, of course, is out with the ACL tear, but we have those pieces. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens regarding Bradley Chubb. Are they going to put in a veteran and pick up somebody that's maybe in free agency? Or are they going to start Malik Reed, who Von Miller has said is like a quarterback nightmare?
I think personally they're going to stick with their second strings. If they don't have trust in their second strings and they have to go immediately find a guy out in free agency to come fill in that spot, then they have a serious problem in Denver. Because if they don't have trust in their second strings and trust that they can perform at the next level and in the first string position, then they don't have a team at all. Then it's all based on a team of starters, and then as injuries go on throughout the season, they're just going to play worse and worse and worse, and they're already playing pretty bad. Or they're playing decent, they just can't finish it. So if they get injuries, if they're starters, they don't have good second strings that they can't trust, then they're just going to be 0-16 like the Dolphins.
We definitely have a problem with depth, and that's a big reason why we can't get too much going. Now, I do think that the addition of Juwan James at right tackle and Bryce Callahan at cornerback, that's definitely going to help out our team a little bit. But I think you're right. It's a question of can we finish games, because that's what we've really struggled with. Theoretically, we should be 2-2 right now, and some of that has to do with flags and officials, whatever. But if we can finish off those games, we're 2-2 right now, and it's a whole different story with the Broncos.
I think when it comes to the Broncos now, yes, you're 0-4, and you could have been 2-2, but is 2-2 where you want to be? Is that 2-2? Is that a good thing? Yeah, I know it's a good thing because you're 0-4, but if you were 2-2, would you still be pissed off at the Broncos for not playing well because you want them playing at the top level and you want Joe Flacco at the Super Bowl caliber he was? Or are you just saying we need to look at least to being a mediocre team, like with Case Keenum, or do you want to be like the superstar team, like with Peyton Manning? Like, I think you need to be not aiming for mediocre, you need to be aiming for higher. So I think there needs to be a drastic change into becoming that, but knowing also what needs to be changed is also very important.
So let me ask you something. What I think John Elway is a big part of the issue, and he needs to make a splash trade this season or this offseason, because Broncos fans, they need a little bit more of an excitement. Like, this is just like a little thing, but like they're still selling tickets for like up there when it was like Peyton Manning era. That's not reality anymore. They need to make a splash to get fans excited, to get the team excited, because I mean, who knows what the team is thinking right now? It's got to be demoralizing that your team is 0-4.
I think the answer comes to the draft. Yes, you don't want to draft another quarterback. You just drafted another quarterback, but you drafted him in the second round, right? And this next draft, there's going to be so many good quarterbacks coming out of so many different good schools, and there's going to be an overflow of quarterback talent. Yes, you could take another quarterback. He doesn't even have to be even close to second string. He could be your third string guy all the way. And you could have still Drew Lock, but having that guy to push Drew Lock to compete and to become the best potential he could be, even if he's hurt right now and he's there for next year, you want competition. And Joe Flacco doesn't have that right now, so he has no push to do too excitingly well. He's already getting paid. He's already had a Super Bowl ring. What says he won another one? He needs competition, and I think a quarterback in the next draft could be that answer to your excitement. Because if you get like Jake Fromm from Georgia, that could be exciting. If you get the quarterback from Texas, that could be exciting. That's something that could, you saw people got excited for the second round pick out of Missouri, and maybe that's not your quarterback for the future. Maybe that was just like a warm up. But I think a next quarterback at that much talent, at these collegiate levels, I think is your move. Because I think as soon as you get a competitor for the job, then people start getting interested, like, oh, who's going to be a starter? Who's going to be like the guy in? And then that way, you can switch them out if they have different play styles. Like if Locke can run it better than Jake Fromm that you got, you could use him as like a Taysom Hill. I mean, yes, he's not going to be Taysom Hill because Taysom Hill's a god, but unbiased. But you need the differences in play style just in case, because you don't know what's going to work now, because obviously their play style is not working right now. So if you have the differences, but also some similarities, then you have that option to switch your playbook and to able to pick out something that would work.
So let me ask you something.
All right.
Do the Broncos need a full rebuild?
No.
No.
I think, at least not at the moment. I think in upcoming future, it's going to be very difficult to keep defensive stars on the team. I think, because currently they're 0-4, you see in Miami, you see them trying to hold all this talent and keep it all clustered into themselves. Yeah, you got Minka Fitzpatrick joining the trade. Who knows if Xavier Howard's going to go. You have the Steelers kind of having problems now, even though they've acquired some players and stuff like that. You've seen so many teams that have been so good, like the Broncos, and have such good defenses, but just because they're playing bad and their play style is not good, they're not good. Their players are ditching them for other teams. And the thing is that also a lot of the players are aging. Yes, you might be a young team, but you're only a young team in certain aspects. Von Miller, how many years does he have left? That's not a question you can answer. He's the highest paid defensive defensive like outside linebacker or end, if you whatever position you put him in. But you never know. Maybe he wants to do what Andrew Luck did. He's a very smart man. Maybe he wants to keep his brain safe and keep himself from getting hurt. He might pull an Andrew Luck. But you might also have, injuries with Bradley Chubb. He may have pushed it too far with his ACL tear, and might have injuries with it in the future because it's obviously around the knee. Look at RG3; he has problems with his knee now. He's a second string. I think you need to look to the future, and that's also another thing with the second strings is that you need to have people in there as backups to what the future is going to happen because you never know what's going to happen. You never know who's going to be the next Antonio Brown. And or Le'Veon Bell, who's going to set out a year and kind of screw your team over. So you need those backup guys. I think that's the most crucial thing in football is having those guys in the second string. Because even if they're not as good, you can at least sub them out and give your guys who are like superstars a break. Give them some more energy, so that when the superstars get back in again, they can just kill it immediately on the first play they're back in. That's what Jacksonville did. They were talking about it when I was watching it live on the ESPN. They're talking about how they were substituting so many players out, and you can see it with the running backs. When Leonard Fournette got so many times to get out, and is it Armstead? Mm-hmm. He got so many touches too, and did still very well because they had a good second string running back to run that as well. I think the Broncos had that too, but that's the one position I think they have a strong second string in. But in order to succeed, they were able to sub them out, and Calais Campbell got some rest too, and he was able to get in there and sack the quarterback a couple times and be able to get pressure in there and stuff like that when he was well rested. Because players play best when they're well rested. When they're trying to catch their breath and at least trying to get down on the line, all exhausted and stuff like that, and their muscles are weak, they're not going to play as good.
Well, while I do agree with that, you do want your superstars in there for as much as possible, as much as they can physically play.
I agree.
And you did bring up the topic of players are getting older. I think that the Broncos have a great foundation for young, talented players on offense, like Noah Fant, Royce Freeman, Phillip Lindsay, Cortland Sutton, Deshaun Hamilton. We have those foundations. But the big thing is, will the Broncos go full rebuild mode? Because I have seen rumors that trades are going to happen this season. Because Chris Harris Jr., Derek Wolfe, and Emmanuel Sanders are on the last year of their contract. They're going to be unrestricted free agents this year.
An extension. Okay, we'll have to look that up and we'll update. But yeah, go ahead.
But I've also seen things that say that is false. So don't be scared, Broncos fans. I don't think it should happen either. I love those guys. They got to stay on the team. They're foundation pieces of the defense and the offense. And they're going to be great leaders. I mean, they're veterans. So I think really keeping that talent throughout this year and then also adding on and kind of implementing those rookies that we got and maybe some younger players this year might help the Broncos get a little bit of a boost into the future.
I feel like what you're wanting is going to be very hard to reach as players' contracts are getting higher and higher in worth, and a superstar player who thinks he's going to be the next top shit like Jalen Ramsey, going from $15 million a year as an average like a top cornerback to 20, that's 30% increase out of all cornerbacks. That's insane. And which player is next? Which position is next to increase in wage? And are you going to be able to fulfill with all that cap space? Or you're going to? I think personally, the Broncos are going to have to release, or at least get some value out of 2 star players. I think it doesn't have to be Vaughn. It doesn't have to be Chris. It could be Chris Harris, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be Bradley Chubb. But maybe where, and I'm not saying this is what should happen or what is going to happen, but I'm just saying you're going to have to understand that some players are going to need to go in order to release cap space for the up and coming, especially as they age too. We had to get rid of Aqib Talib, which I think personally, people are not happy with that decision because he obviously went to play in a Super Bowl with the Rams, but you have to understand that allowed Lindsey to be on the team. Maybe, even though he's still on a rookie contract, but allowed other players to be signed onto the team and to further develop as they get older, maybe some younger players too.
I agree with that. So let's do one last thing for today. Broncos record, we're sitting at 4-0.
0-4.
Fuck.
He's dreaming.
We're sitting at 0-4. What is the end of the year prediction record for the Broncos for you?
I'm very unbiased. I like the Broncos, but honestly, I like a lot of other teams too. I'm more of a college football person and college football prospects. So anybody who has good Texas State, I have that in favor. But for the Broncos, I think it's gonna be 3-13.
3-13. Well, we'll see what goes on. My personal opinion, you already know what it is. We're going 12-14. See you next time.
12-14. What?
Wait, shit. We're going 12-4. That's what I meant to say.